Shay Station, Jerry and Charlie. Shay Station, Jerry and Charlie, riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull your band, now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Shay Station.
Today is Monday, August 18th, the 229th episode of Shay Station. It has been a little bit since the trade deadline was the last time that we chatted about this chaotic mess of a team that might be turning a corner as soon as we return to the mics. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to take full ownership of that because I've been a very busy man in August. We had our floorball tournament. I had a week's vacation in Nantucket. I'm doing a lot of wedding stuff, and I didn't have time to set up a meeting with my good friend Jerry Blevins to talk about our favorite blue and orange team, the New York Mets, who have been having a nightmarish month of August, but have won their first series of this month as well. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot of individual player performances, a lot of guys slumping, a lot of guys on the rise, roster moves, rookies making their debut. It's going to be a jam-packed episode. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack, a.k.a. Jolly, and joining me, as I mentioned before, is my guy, Jerry Blevins, who's about to send the kids to school, which means the party's back on over in Ohio. Jerry, how you doing?
I'm lovely. Yeah, boys start school tomorrow, kindergarten and first grade.
Sheesh.
Like, yeah, it's the real deal. I'm excited though. Feels like a corner has started to turn for the New York Mets. But it's been just heartbreak after heartbreak. Playing well enough, not getting their butts kicked, but losing in, heartbreaking fashion all the time. So it was good to see them win a series against a good team.
Yeah, I mean, this was a matchup that I was not looking forward to on paper because, well, the thing is, like, they have been hitting, and we talked about that a little bit before we started recording, and, like, I was pulling all these numbers from Lindor and Soto to talk about their splits and everything. It's like everything looks kind of good. Like Pete Alonso's having one of the best months of any hitter in baseball right now. Why aren't they winning games? It's mostly been, bullpen and starting pitching. But this is a matchup that scared me because the Seattle Mariners are just a pitching factory with a pretty good top half of their lineup that they upgraded. And, you're staring down the barrel of Luis Castillo, Brian Wu, and George Kirby. It's not exactly a favorable matchup. So for the Mets to turn the corner in this series right before a road trip, I think is a really encouraging sign. But I think we would be doing a disservice to completely ignore the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks of Mets baseball, as much as I would like to, because we are a positive pod. We're an optimistic pod. People come here for the spin, for the light at the end of the tunnel, and we are going to give you that. But this Mets month, and we started doing this show in 2021, and I bring this up a lot, and if you've been listening to basically every episode, you know where I'm going. But our first real road trip that we recapped together, our first real stretch of baseball, was in 2021 in August, where our Mets were leading their division, and they played the Giants and the Dodgers in 2 road series and 2 home series for about 2 weeks straight, just Giants, Dodgers. And they lost, I think, 13 of those 14 games, I want to say. It was one of the worst stretches of baseball I've ever seen where everything completely fell off, whether it was blown leads or bad defense or poor starting pitching or the wrong guy getting the ball at the wrong time. It was one of the worst stretches of baseball I've ever seen. And this stretch from the Mets from August 1st to basically the Seattle series, which began on the 15th, was a very similar feeling. Now, I do think the talent on this team is a lot better, but they just found a different way to lose every night. And Anthony DiComo, say what you will about him, he did a great job covering just how many different ways this team was managing to lose games. And the biggest stat was they've blown 11 leads in their last 7 games heading into Friday. They had lost 14 of 16. They became just the second Mets team in 17 years to blow a lead in 7 consecutive games. And it's just hard to fathom, but at the same time, you were watching every night and you kind of just felt like it was going to happen every night. And it felt like this skid was never going to end at certain points.
I mean, you nailed it. It just felt like it was never going to an end. It still feels like that a little bit, I'll be honest. It still feels like they're going to find creative ways to lose, but there's light at the end of this tunnel. They're playing pretty good baseball. There's some bright spots. Lindor looks great. Alonso has been great. Um, Alvarez looks like he's back to who we love. And then you're just finding creative ways. This new revamped bullpen, they haven't done it, and so it's good to see a win yesterday. That way they can reset and then head down to a Washington place where they know they're better than that team, and then they could take a deep breath and get back to winning ways.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty encouraged by a lot of what the veterans said after some of those really tough losses where, Brooks Raley would say something like, I've never seen anything like this. I've been playing a long time, but there was kind of a uniting belief of like, well, we know we're good enough and we're going to turn a corner. And when that happens, it's going to be really fun, not if it happens. And some people might perceive that as lack of urgency, but at the same time, I still believe in this roster. Like I said, after I went to the Friday game, which was especially gut wrenching because it was 11-9. It's hard to lose a game when you score 9 runs, and the Mets managed to do that. And I was leaving that ballpark, and I was very sad because I was with my fiance, with her family, and a lot of them were going to their first Mets game, and they had a really good time. It was Beatles night, and I really wanted the team to win, just to like show them, a good time. It felt like I was like pseudo hosting. And I'm leaving the ballpark, and I'm like, I just don't feel like this team is bad. I just feel like they're under some spell right now that they can't seem to break, because when you have Juan Soto as the first player to go 30-20 this year, you have Pete Alonso breaking the franchise home run record, you have Francisco Lindor, who has multi-hits in each of his last 6 games. I no part of me believes that team is not playoff caliber, even if they're not playing that caliber of baseball right now. And you mentioned that the super bullpen has been disappointing so far. It's funny because two of the 3 guys we acquired have been great. Tyler Rogers has been really good, and Gregory Soto has been, I think, exceeding expectations. It's just in pivotal moments in so many of these games, they have come up on the wrong end, whether it was that horrific blown lead against the Braves where they had a 6-run lead. Any of the games in Milwaukee, take your pick. I mean, they lost 2-3 and then 6-7 in, the front and back half of those games. The Cleveland series was especially brutal. I was at the first one where they lost in extras. It's just all of these games. You could chalk up even half of them to becoming wins, and all of a sudden you're playing 500 in August and you have this healthy wild card lead. You're competing for the division. It just wasn't that way for the Mets. It felt like all the games that they were winning in April and May, that some of them, it kind of felt like they had no business winning and they were just coming out because they were the better team. It felt like they were losing those games in August. And I think that's just the natural evening out of this season. But it's go time now. You got about 5 weeks left in the season. You got some pretty decent opponents left on the horizon. And I'm sincerely hoping that this Little League Classic, this series win against a playoff-bound team in the American League, can be the beginning of something better for the 2025 Mets.
I agree. I feel like it's out in front of them. I felt like it was almost like a curse has been lifted, and now it's up to them. Now it's just, can we play good enough baseball? Guys are back to normal. Sometimes it's hard when you get traded you feel like you need to be perfect and do everything. I felt like that might have been Helsley's issue. But outside of that, you got to win baseballs now. There's a series in Cincinnati coming up. They go to Detroit and Cincinnati. Those are going to be big. The Reds are right behind them, a game and a half back in the wild card, the final wild card spot. They're making a push. So, it's on a platter. Do they want to eat, or do they want to let somebody else take their food, bully them in the lunchroom?
Don't let somebody come into your house and take your meal, Jerry Blevins.
That's it.
I mean, I'm looking at the standings. I can't even believe how hard the National League fell off. I mean, the Giants are out of it. The Diamondbacks are out of it. The Marlins, who are making some noise there, they're out of it. It's really just one team will get left out of the party with the 6 playoff team format in the National League, and it's either going to be the Mets or the Reds from the look of it, because everyone else is playing pretty solid baseball. So that series in Cincinnati after losing the home series against the Reds is going to be a really big one to circle on your calendar there. But let's talk about this Mariners series because there's a lot of positives to pull from it. They lost game one. They bounced back and won the latter two games. And the core hitters really feel like they're beginning to emerge from this weird funk that it seems like all four of them went into at the same time. And you saw that last night with a really, really good offensive performance against George Kirby, who's one of the better pitchers in the American League. And I think the story, as it usually is when the Mets go hot and go cold, is Francisco Lindor, who once again had one of these weird disappearing acts in the middle of August. He had an 0 for 19 from August 5th to August 10th, where the Mets lost all 5 of those games. Since the 12th, he's 11 for 20, 3 homers, 2 stolen bases. And I wanted to highlight this because I think that we have this conversation every year about Francisco Lindor, and I think me and you have gotten to a point where we know how good he is. We know what he's capable of. We know the caliber of player he is. But it does come with the attached caveat that for a week and every month, essentially, he might go missing. And it's a tough thing to maneuver, and it's a tough thing to navigate, and that's why the signing of Juan Soto is great. Bringing back Pete Alonso is great. You have more ammunition in this lineup, but Lindor had an 0 for 19 in August. He had an 0 for 28 in July, an 0 for 18 in June, a 1 for 22 in May, and a 1 for 15 to start the season. At this point, if you're a Mets fan, and the reason I read this out, I'm not trying to bring Lindor down. He's playing some of his best baseball of the season right now. But the reason I want to outline this is because in September, it might happen again. And this Mets team needs to kind of learn to survive that. And they really haven't shown that they're capable of doing so. And I know that we've said so many times, like, this team only goes when Francisco Lindor goes. But if that is truly the case, I worry about, what this team does down the stretch if Francisco Lindor has another cold stretch or if he gets another minor injury that he tries to play through. We don't have to worry about that right now because he is playing very good baseball, but it's something to keep on your mind as a Mets fan.
It is. He had this one. What felt different because he was an automatic out, and then he looked lost at the plate. And sometimes you go through a rough stretch, but hitting a baseball is hard. It's bad luck and good pitching combination over a week. But this one felt like he had no idea what he was doing. Like the bat looked weird in his hand. Like he just didn't look comfortable. Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez went with him in the cage. He did a bunch of early work. They made a minor tweak that they noticed on film. And since then, he's had like multiple hit games every day. So hopefully that's something that can continue. Being a switch hitter is hard because you have to do double work. Sometimes it takes away. It's an advantage most of the time, but sometimes when you have to dive in and do some tweaking of your mechanics, you got to do it twice, and it doesn't feel the same from either side. So it's really good to see him go. We always say it, when Lindor goes, the Mets go, and it's never been more obvious than this month.
Yeah, it just felt like, and it's different when he's leading off games and he's really setting the table, but you feel differently about this lineup when he's getting on base at the rate that he has currently. Like, he's been 6-19 in his last 5 games, 13 for 21, and he's hitting for power. He had his hardest hit ball of the year in this last game on Sunday against the Mariners. And he just looks more comfortable now. So I don't know what it was. I mean, you had a lot of Mets fans that were saying, let's fire the hitting coach. You had a lot of Mets fans saying, let him go on the IL. Maybe he's still hurt. I don't know. And the truth of it all is that we really don't know anything. And this is just part of the nature of Lindor's play at this age. Like, he's one of the most impressive players in baseball because he's still playing everyday shortstop at his age. I think he's one of the oldest shortstops in the league. And he's leading off games for a World Series contending team. And, these spells are just going to happen. And it's frustrating. Like, I'm not saying don't be frustrated by it. But it's just like you have to have the faith that, like, in a week's time, in 3 days' time, in tomorrow's time, he'll turn that corner because he's proven time and time again that he can do it. It's just, can he stick the landing for these last 5 weeks and really be that beacon of consistency? Because this entire season, it's kind of been guys passing the baton of who's hot at the certain time, who's going to go cold. Like, for a while, Nimmo, for like 4 weeks there, was the best hitter on the team. Now in August, it kind of feels like Alonso's taking the reins there. Juan Soto's been steady Eddie, but he's had the problems with runners in scoring position. And I think that when your team is good enough, you're able to pass the baton this way. It's just, I can't help but imagine, like, what if all four of these core guys at the same time start to go? That's when you really start to see the ceiling of this team rise. So it's this weird amalgamation of, it really wasn't the offense's fault this month at all. Like, in most of these games, they're in it offensively, and it's just blown leads and not getting length from their starting pitcher. But I just feel like there's more in the tank there with, like, kind of everybody. And you saw what they're capable of last night.
Yeah, you saw it. You've seen it. That's been the frustrating part, is this fan base, the league bought into the Mets. We were really worried about their rotation to start the year,
Yeah.
and then guess what? They were like the best rotation in baseball for 2 months.
Yep.
And now those question marks are starting to pop back up. Montas has not worked out in any sense of the word. Um, you've seen some regression a little bit from Clay Holmes, not a little bit, it's significant because of just usage. He's never thrown this many innings in his whole career, and it's starting to take off. Manaya's kind of been tweaking. On any other date or in any other year, Manaya would be fine because he's still finding his way coming back from that injury in spring training. But everything was magnified because nobody in the rotation besides David Peterson was going, and then Peterson had a hiccup, and it felt like the world was, coming to an end. And so it's really nice to see this team still in a playoff position after going through what they've been through. It felt like a corner has been turned, especially offensively, but I feel like the turn has been made. Vientos has been swinging the bat really well. They feel like a deeper lineup. The bullpen, I feel like, especially with the additions, like you said, Soto blew a lead. I think his first
It was
time
in
a
San
Mets
Diego,
uniform.
yeah, and then ever
Yeah.
since he's been great.
Since then, he's been great. You've had Reed Garrett kind of be okay. Helsley's been terrible. Rogers has been really good, and Diaz has had his moments too. But you feel like they have enough of the pieces. To me, it's still, is the starting rotation good enough to win series in the playoffs? Nolan McLean looked incredible. That was a huge boost for me. Um, he can give you something. He brings youth to a rotation that desperately needed it. I still feel like there might be a Brandon Sproat on the horizon, maybe come September when the rosters they have a little bit more flexibility. But I think finally they have stopped the leak in the boat, and now it's up to them to just all row in the same direction.
Yeah, so really, when we keep saying turn the corner, it really was that Nolan McLean game on Saturday, which I'll be real. Like, I did not think they were going to call him up because it just felt like an avenue for Paul Blackburn to get in some work and get another chance at the rotation. And then they used him for 5 innings in that mop-up and DFA'd him after, and I was very, very shocked by that. Obviously, I know Mets fans want it. They're not going to DFA Montas. There's just too much money invested in that contract for them to call quits, even though I think both me and you agree the writing is a little bit on the wall with Frankie Montas. He's going to be dead weight on this roster for a little bit. With McLean, coming up Saturday, sold out crowd at Citi Field, Juan Soto bobblehead day. It's a crowd itching for a win because the Mets just blew another lead the night before. They're facing Brian Wu, who I think is like top 5 in the American League. McLean was like set up for failure in this outing. Like I had a bad feeling about this game going into it, just because it was everything that was going wrong for the team that could go wrong was going wrong, and they were kind of, I don't want to say they were throwing him into the fire, but there was pressure in the start to like be the guy to stop the bleeding, and it's your first major league outing. Yeah,
That's scary as a rookie because you want them to feel comfortable, come into a good situation, not feeling the pressure to perform. You just want them to get their feet wet, take a deep breath. But this dude had pressure on him.
yes,
I don't know if he felt it because it's a whirlwind. You got a whirlwind of logistics of my parents being here. I'm coming up. What do we do? how was it in the big leagues? But there was major pressure on him because, the Mets had just blown leads. I think the last
It was 7 games in a
three
row.
losses leading up to that game.
Yeah.
Reed Garrett got the loss, Helsley got the loss, Helsley got the loss, and then all of a sudden you're counting on him to go against Wu, who has gone 6 innings in every single start this year.
It's a
Literally
crazy
the
stat.
antithesis
Yeah.
of what the Mets rotation has been.
It was poetic in a way.
It really
was.
was.
Yeah.
And McLean stepped up and he looked the part. His stuff played that sweeper that we've seen in the minor leagues and we are excited about. Really, really shined. That velocity was still there. He was throwing strikes. I was super impressed. I think he's in the rotation for the long haul.
I mean, this was, and Mendoza basically all but guaranteed that this guy's going to stay as a fixture, and thank God, because this was a true battle test. I mean, outside of all the factors that we just mentioned, you have the top of the Mariners lineup, which is, a combination of Eugenio Suarez, Julio Rodriguez, Josh Naylor. Like, it's a very, very, it's one of the best lineups in the American League. And then the bottom half is just stacked with lefties. So you're staring down the barrel of this, and I'm just hoping that McLean can get through 5 and hopefully compete. And his stuff looks so good. I mean, the sweeper looks like a Frisbee, but the really cool thing was that his curveball was the shining pitch of this outing, and it was a pitch he really didn't even use that much in his stint at AAA. So you see how good his numbers were in AAA, and you just wonder how much better he can be with this third weapon in his arsenal, not to mention his fastball has electric stuff on it. He was an absolute joy to watch, and I think it's exciting because it's some of the first real benefits being reaped of this Stearns developmental overhaul, where we're seeing all these guys emerge that were, on the lower end of the top 30 that are now fast risers and shooting up through the minor leagues. And the guy that took Nolan McLean's spot, Jonah Tong in AAA, he dazzles in his first AAA outing. The Mets need to get him on the 40-man roster. They need to get Brandon Sproat on the 40-man roster because they'll be Rule 5 eligible this offseason. Maybe there are more moves on the way. I don't know. But if this was a true turning point of the Mets season, and this is going to be where they start to, string together some wins, I think they have to notice that the youthful energy of McLean coming up and gutting through a really impressive outing against a very good team, against a very good pitcher, that has to be evidence to, okay, maybe there is something here. Maybe there is something to be provided from these young pitchers. We have not seen an influx of young Mets pitching talent from their farm in a really long time. Like, it's always kind of been outsourced ever since those 2015 days of, Matt, Syndergaard, DeGrom, what have you. It felt like that feeling of watching those guys come up, invigorate the roster, and really guide them towards a path of success. And hey, man, you mentioned Clay Holmes working more than ever in his career. I know he looked sharper last night, but he's getting towards that limit, whatever that limit is that they have in mind. Maybe it's not there at all. Maybe they have a certain number in mind, but that's another spot in the rotation that could open up. Sean Manaea does not look right. Is he pitching hurt? Is he pitching with some sort of impingement? I don't know. But I'm saying these are important, crucial decisions that need to be made in the next 13 days. Because if you want to get, the dipping of the feet in for Jonah Tong or Brandon Sproat or someone else, it needs to happen before September 1st if you want them to be part of this October plan, because they won't be playoff eligible in that case if they come up after that. So all of that being said, the Nolan McLean start was unexpected, and it was so necessary for this team to get back in their winning ways.
Yeah, that was a big boost to your just overall feeling of what this team's capable of doing. I feel like with Sproat and maybe even Tong coming up, we might see some youth fireworks come into that rotation because it is the weakest point.
Easily.
The bullpen is set regardless of if they keep blowing games. You're not going to be able to bring guys up and be better than the guys you have. You got to roll with the punches there. Mm-hmm. The lineup is the same way. You've got your guys. You've got some flexibility. They brought up Acuna to be, that Brewers series where you saw Marte
the send in the Brewers game.
Great
Sorry.
double.
Yeah.
And then on a McNeil single, he tried to score from second. He did everything right. He's old.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, that was one of the more creative ways we've seen the Mets lose.
Yep.
In retrospect, you would have Acuna come off the bench, pinch run, and he scores there, and the game goes into extra innings. It's just you've got the full, complete roster on the horizon of contention,
Yes.
and so it's all on the backs of that starting rotation. Can Peterson keep it up? Can he dial it up? Can Manaea find his way? Is McLean capable of doing it on this stage at this point in his career? And can he do it? Will they bring up another guy to kind of to spark some life? Can Singa revert back to his dominant ways? You have the biggest question marks are in the rotation. They have been all year, and they've shown the roller coaster of who they are with injuries and not coming back. So it's exciting, man. This is a great day off for them. Hopefully, Alvarez's thumb will be okay. They're getting it checked out, but he's looked really good behind the plate since getting sent down and coming back up.
Yeah.
I just feel like they have the pieces there. The team's finally majority is complete. Now who are you? Who
Yeah.
are you? Can you play with the big boys? Can you play under pressure with your backs against the wall? They jumped out to that huge lead and they were able to cruise for a while, and then they plummeted in August. Plummeted in heartbreaking fashion, but there is a shining star for me for this team is that they've been competitive in all of these games, which has been the hard part. They found ways to lose, but they've been fighting the entire time. 1-run games, 2-run games. They've just been trying to win and just haven't been doing it. All right, have you turned the corner? Let's see what you've got.
Yeah, it is the double-edged sword of why this losing streak was so painful. It's like they had chances to win in like the grand majority of these games. Like there is a couple blowouts here and there. That last game in the Giants series, a couple of games in the Cleveland series where they got almost no hit. Like, yeah, those games they're going to happen in these losing skits. It's just you really hope that you can squeeze out some of the 1-run games, and that is the other side of the coin of. Yes, the Mets were 45-24 at some point in June, then they went 19-34 or 19-34 after that. But they were 45-24. You've built up that cushion. That cushion isn't meaningless. It's the reason you're still in a playoff spot today. So, yes, things even out in the end, and you wish that the Mets could have capitalized more. But it is what you said before. At the end of the day, was last year's run a fluke, or is this in the DNA of this Mets roster now that they're going to be perennial competitors in the playoffs every year? Because as it stands right now, if the season ended today, they're in the dance. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't mind the situation of this rotation in a 3-game series. I don't mind it. I don't love it in a 5-game series. I really don't like it in a 7-game series. So that is, I think, the lingering question. You mentioned it before, but the bullpen is set. The only guy with an option in the bullpen currently is Reed Garrett, and even though he's struggled, I don't think he's getting sent down. So the bullpen is what it is, and that includes Frankie Montas, unfortunately. When you talk about the starting rotation, I think me and you both believe in David Peterson, even with that minor Braves hiccup, because he has been so good and so consistent. I still believe in Kodai Senga. I know that he's had this weird year because of the midseason injury. He hasn't been quite right since then, but he did look good his last outing. That third game, Is that Nolan McLean? Is that Sean Manaea? Is it Clay Holmes? I don't know how great I feel. I like it's sort of like the unknown feels better than what is known. And it's like I feel like I know what I'm going to get with Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes at this point. I don't really know what I'm going to get with Nolan McLean, and I think I'd rather open that box and also the other boxes in AAA as well.
Yeah. Yep. They've got 5 weeks to figure out what they're going to do. If they're going to be in the dance and who's going to be the one dancing. So it's definitely a playoff caliber team. But is this rotation worthy of a World Series? And we're gonna find that out. Though these things will iron themselves out as it comes. I thought if we can look back on the trade deadline, not getting a starting pitcher feels like the worst move ever, right?
Yeah, but no one did.
No one did, and from the Mets' perspective, They have Frankie Montas coming back, who they have for another year. That might be more of a mistake on a free agent signing. Again,
Yeah.
I'll take the blame here because I like that signing. I still think there's potential there. It's just been atrocious this year.
Yeah.
He's been nothing but a detriment. Um, they had Mania trying to figure it out. They had Clay Holmes, at in an innings limit kind of thing. They had guys that had to pitch that they had no flexibility with. If they bring in a starter, what roster move are they going to make?
Yeah.
Because that was the biggest question mark. I don't think they had the flexibility for a huge price to kind of move that. We'll see if Montas even is in the bullpen. I know they're it's a roster crunch kind of thing. If they put him on the IL, I could see them moving Clay Holmes to the bullpen just for this last run, just because his innings are down and he kind of piggyback, maybe McLean. They bring in Sproat or even Tong to kind of do something. They're going to have options, and
Yeah.
that to me is the biggest thing. They're still in the driver's seat of their own fate, which is huge considering how poorly they've played. This should be a fun run, man.
Yeah. And let's go back to the trade deadline for a second, because we didn't really take a second to kind of analyze where things stand with the four guys the Mets brought in, because it has been kind of two different stories. You have Gregory Soto and Tyler Rogers on the one hand, who I think have done their part and aided this bullpen in a pretty distinct way. I mean, I know the Mets were doing the whole DFA cycle. You had your Chris Davinsky's, your Rico Garcia's, and they were making it work. But it felt really good to get two established relievers that are going to be not up and down for the rest of the season. I want to talk to you about Ryan Helsley, because that was the acquisition I think I was most excited about. And I think the
Same.
Mets played a heavier price for Helsley than the other two by a pretty decent margin, in my opinion. And he throws absolute gas. His breaking pitches still fall off the table. What has been the thing that you've seen with Ryan Helsley so far as a New York Met?
It was his breaking ball, especially in those first few outings. He didn't have it. He was hanging it. I think he was trying to overthrow it, make it spin, and it was just popping out. And then he abandoned it, knowing that he had, 102. I think he had 104 on the TV gun.
Jeez.
He's got electric stuff, but his slider is his swing and miss pitch, and he wasn't confident in it, didn't trust it, and he was paying the price for it. As hard as his fastball is, it's straight as an arrow. And when you don't have to worry about a breaking ball, you can time that up, and you can put your bat on the right plane. And it's a damaged pitch when they make contact, because it's coming in so hard and it's so flat that you're not going to miss the barrel unless you're mixing in your pitches. That's what I've seen from him. But it's the life of a reliever.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have it, you go through a spell, just like we talked about Lindor. Sometimes you go through that. I feel like Helsley still has to be the guy. I was most excited about it too, because he's 8, Diaz is in the 9th.
Yeah.
You have a rotation, and then you have the depth of the bullpen where you can fill those in with whoever you want. So I still like Helsley. I still think he's great. I would, as a Met, he's not great. But I still think he's going to be just fine, because you revert back to who you are at some point, and a guy of that caliber that's done it for as long as he has can't stay in a rut for his extended period of time. So I think he'll be good too. I think the bullpen is still really good. I think they're great, actually. But you need the guys to be themselves, and I think Helsley he'll be right there.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, do you believe in talent, which I do, and that's like, whenever there was qualms about the Mets lineup, it's like, yeah, I just think they're really talented. Like, I think they'll find a way, and they have. With this bullpen, maybe Helsley needs that Reed Garrett treatment of, he was getting late game opportunities, he was getting a save opportunity here and there, and he wasn't coming through. Well, maybe he pitches in the 6th instead, and Reed Garrett's kind of going through that same thing as well right now, so it's all the more pressure on Carlos Mendoza. But speaking of Mendoza, I did like that he used Diaz for the 6-out save on Saturday. Let's just lock up this win if we have a chance to win. I haven't had too many issues with Mendoza's managing. I know a lot of people kind of point the finger there when things go really bad. And there were minor things that you can point to as well. But at the end of the day, like, I look at the names on this roster in the bullpen, and I think of an October series, and I really still do like what I see. Like, I like the fact that they all throw from different arm angles. I like that there's wide ranges in velocity, different kinds of breaking pitches. Like, I have trouble believing that the bullpen is going to stay in this flux for the remainder of the season. And whether you want to blame that on starting pitchers not doing their job, the bullpen getting overexerted, I still believe that the talent is there to protect big leads late in games, and we just got to see it happen in these next 2 weeks to really have that feeling be restored. Do you have any thoughts on Cedric Mullins? He's kind of been up and down so far in his Mets tenure, but he has fully gotten the playing time reins from Tyrone Taylor. We haven't seen much of Tyrone.
This is kind of the guy I figured we would get for who we traded for.
Yeah.
You know, he's had some big seasons as an Oriole, but he's like a weird, you know, all or nothing. He plays solid defense out there in center field, so you're not getting less than you would be, you know. But he's going to be the bottom of your order, a lefty bat that can give you some pop on occasion. I don't think he's going to bat a $120.
Yeah, I hope not.
As a Met. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Like, you know, with Helsley, we've been talking about his ceiling is so high and his consistency has been there for so long that you expect him to come out of it. I don't expect that from Cedric Mullins, but I do expect him to not hit a $167. But I don't see, 350 coming out of him.
Do you miss Luis Robert, the Dream?
I don't. I don't think that would have been a good move.
Yeah, you were never on that train, which I respect to a degree.
I don't know him as a human.
Yeah.
I just know what I see on the field when he's playing with the White Sox. And again, it could be a White Sox thing. I just don't think his style of play fits into what the Mets are trying to build from an organizational standpoint. It doesn't seem like he has the want to hustle on his own. So as you struggle with the lights in the studio,
do you see what's going on in here? I'm getting like a
your
rave
emotion
going.
lasted like 30 seconds.
Speaking of things we see on the field, Jerry Blevins, let's talk about Francisco Alvarez really quick, because this is a pro Alvi pod. This is a pro Alvarez belief pod. Even when times were bad, we were reaping the benefits of our belief. Because since Alvarez's recall on July 21st, he's been one of the best catchers in baseball. He had the second highest slugging percentage at .603, the third highest OPS at .992, and the third highest walk rate among all catchers since July 21st. He had 3 hits last night. He's looking great. He slides head first into second base on his third hit of the day, and he grabs that thumb. And it's an eerily similar visual to April 2024 in Los Angeles, where he slid headfirst into second base on a double and grabbed his thumb. What's your concern level from 1 to 10 right now about Francisco Alvarez?
My concern level is an 8, just because he's been so good, and the Mets need that kind of spark. He's walked, as you mentioned. He's been going the other way. Like, all signs are pointing in the right direction. I think he'll be fine because he wanted to stay in. I think he just kind of jammed it, and he'll be okay. But it is concerning because the Mets need everything that they've gotten. He's been on fire for them. So hopefully, his thumb is as he thinks, because he'll be in DC tomorrow. He'll be around, so hopefully the MRI comes back clean.
Yeah, I'm going to be holding my breath until the results of that MRI come out, because we saw him move up in the order as well. It's really been nice to see him hit behind Jeff McNeil and have those two in the middle of the order as like a fixture that keeps the line moving, and it's really when this team is at its best. Also, Brett Beatty's been swinging a really good bat in August as well. His OPS is over 1,000 this month. He had a couple knocks last night. It just feels like I don't want any Alvarez injury to take the wind out of the sails of this team, because I know that they're still a good lineup with or without him. They're just so much better getting that production from catcher. And as much as I like Luis Torrens defensively, having to watch him play the last 5 weeks of the season would be a brutal blow for this team.
Agreed. Alvarez is your guy. That's who you want. him hitting sixth behind McNeil is wild to me that McNeil is all the way up there, considering, where we wanted Vientos to be this year. There's still room for Vientos to catch fire, but him and Alvarez are, they're the wild cards of this lineup. If they can go to their baseline, they don't have to be superheroes, but they can be. That's the key. They haven't been all season. Alvarez looks the part right now, and we saw Vientos go 2 for 3 with a homer.
So let me ask you this as sort of a prompt. So let's say that the top four of this lineup is established. It's going to be Lindor, Soto, Nimmo, Alonso, day in, day out. Because I think it's at this point in the season we need to have a static lineup. I think that like the variety of playing time I think has been hurting guys, and it's been an oft discussed topic of like guys can't really get into a rhythm if they're not playing often. What would be the static remainder of your lineup for the rest of the season?
The ideal spot, or where I would put him in the order now?
I would say the ideal spot.
Okay, so I would put Vientos behind Alonso at 5. I would put McNeil behind him to give you some variety and a left-handed bat following the two righties. Then I would put Alvarez behind, and I think I would have Beatty, behind him, and then you've got Mullins in center field. And I'm fine with Mullins and Tyrone Taylor playing the platoon splits
Sure. Yeah.
moving forward. But for me, Vientos has the most potential there, and if he's hitting, it becomes a top 5
Yeah.
versus a top 4, and then you have the guy like McNeil, Beatty, and Mullins and Alvarez being the bottom half of an order. I mean, that's special right there. That's tough for a pitcher to navigate.
I mean, the Mark Vientos thing is really why I asked that question, because his situation is so weird. From July 19th to August 3rd, he hit safely in 11 straight games, hit 333, only drew one walk, and then didn't play for a full week from August 9th to August 15th. Basically just rode the bench the entire time. And he comes up last night, he's playing third base, makes an error, then he hits this big 3-run home run, and it's kind of just a reminder of the give and take that has been Mark Vientos' 2025 season. So that's why I wanted to ask you, like, do you just give him consistent playing time for these last 5 weeks and let him flounder if he does flounder, because you just know last year at this time, at certain points, this lineup ran through Mark Vientos?
That is a tough one, because you don't have the position to kind of let a guy flounder. If his at bats start to looking like he's lost again, you don't have time to deal with that, because Beatty looks pretty solid at the plate now, but he's had his ups and downs. So I think they'll figure it out. But again, the Mets at their best have Vientos in the heart of their order. I'll stick by that. We haven't seen the best from Beatty in any stretch, I don't think. Do you?
I mean, like, this recent stretch has been good, and we obviously saw that really hot May that he had, or was it June, where he was like the best hitter on the team. But he has been one that has dealt with the inconsistency of playing time, I think, a lot better, which is why he gets more of a benefit of the doubt. But I agree, the potential for offense is much higher with Mark Vientos, and it was just really nice seeing him go opposite field for power against a good pitcher, catching up with a fastball. I just haven't seen that in a really long time, and that visual was like, oh shit, like every doubt about Mark Vientos that I've had for 3 weeks goes away when I see a swing like that.
Yeah, that's his sweet spot. And even Alvarez we saw go the other way with power. It shows you that their time is on and their swing is on, because when for Vientos it's not late, but for Alvarez it might be he's just a touch late, but if his swing's on path, you can still run into some balls. It shows me that his approach is solid, because he's letting the ball get deep.
Yeah.
He looks comfortable at the plate. He doesn't feel like he has to cheat to get there. So, yeah, it's definitely his sweet spot, because when he's driving the ball to right center field, everything is all his timing, his approach, his mechanics are locked in to be able to drive the ball there.
Well, speaking of timing, the lights in my studio are on some kind of timer that I don't understand.
This has been wild. Normally it's like, what, 30 minutes?
Yeah,
and
30
then
minutes, and then
goes
they go
off?
out, and then I wave my arms, and they turn back on, and now today
Now it's 30 seconds.
So I'll begin to put a bow on our show here, but we'll do some series probables. So the Mets are going to enter a 6-game road trip as my lights go off again against the Washington Nationals and Atlanta Braves in D.C. in Truist, as hopefully they can sustain some of their winning ways. They get the off day today. We're going to get Alvarez MRI news today. And then that first game against the Nationals is going to be Jake Irvin, who has had the Mets number in the past. Hopefully that's kind of a thing of the past. They'll get him, Brad Lord, and Mackenzie Gore in D.C. And the Nats just played a series against the Phillies, which they lost. They came back from a 6-0 deficit, tied it, and then lost the game yesterday. So they're not going to just roll over, it seems. They got some really good players on their roster. And we know what the Braves do to the Mets every time they seem to play each other. So hopefully the Mets can get out of Truist and beat a team that they should beat. But I'm not gonna count on that one too much. But as it stands, 1.5 game lead in the wild card over the Cincinnati Reds, and basically everybody else is a distant, far away afterthought. The St. Louis Cardinals are the next closest team at 5.5 games back. They've lost 5 in a row. They just got swept by the Yankees. And as for your division, the Mets currently sit 5 games back of the Phillies. With plenty of season left to go, you never know. There's also still matchups with the Phillies on the horizon, so hopefully the Mets can make something of that.
That's the hope. That's the dream. They're in it now, though. They're in the thick of it, playing meaningful baseball right now. Let's just see if they can find their identity in that rotation again.
The margin for error is gone. That's the biggest thing. So we'll see if this series
It's about
win means
a game
anything.
and a half.
Yeah, it's slight. Also, you
I
gotta beat the
I
Reds.
still feel crazily that the division is not out of the realm of possibilities. We've seen this team get hot and play well. We've seen the rotation pitch well.
Yeah.
With the spark of McLean, if they do something else with another young guy, Senga gets right, Peterson continues, they can make a run at this, man. It's still possible. And don't count out those Braves, man. They're still within striking distance.
12 games under, but they still feel as dangerous as ever.
They really do.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all I got. Hopefully it won't be another 3 weeks until we chat again, Jerry. And
Well, let's stop going on vacation all
I know.
the time.
Well, I'm done vacationing for the year actually, which is good. Appreciate you guys listening. If you watched on YouTube and you saw my lights go off a bunch, send us a like and a subscription if you don't mind, because it would make me feel better about my lighting situation. If you're listening on a podcast app, leave us a rating, leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, all that good stuff. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week. Hopefully, it's the beginning of a win streak for the Mets.
Let's do it. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets, baby. It's time to go.
Shea Station, Jerry and Charlie. Shea Station, Jerry and Charlie. Thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you next time, where we'll be back.
Shea Station.